Hey guys, how's it going? So today I'm going to be doing a little test with my Canon M50. We're going to be doing an ISO test and seeing how far you can push it without having very grainy video, and to see you know, the capabilities of the M50 in case you guys have one of these. It's a very popular camera to start vlogging or to start filmmaking. As you can see, for mine, I have a small rig on it, and I have a Rode Video Mic Go currently. So this is my current setup whenever I do like a quick video, something that's not too serious, that I don't need any fast lenses or anything like that. The kit lens on here is a very good lens, and from what I've seen out of like the 3 or 4 lenses that are available out for the M mount, I think this is one of the best lenses that you can have. But it is a very slow lens. It's a 3.5 to a 5.6, I believe. So we're going to see how far we can push it, the performance of each ISO, and how it looks. So I'm going to be doing all my tests in 1080p. I'm not going to be doing 4K on this test because it's due to the Canon crop, you know, it's used very rarely, unless you're trying to get that extra reach. But I'm going to be shooting everything in 1080, which is still HD, and it's still fine. This is what I shoot all my videos in whenever I do use my M50. And yeah, we're going to see how far we can push it. So far, the specs of this on paper seem pretty okay. But once you put it to good use in low light, you can, you know, tell that it has hit its limits pretty quickly. So we're going to see how the footage here looks, and we're going to see how it you know, behaves in low light. Right now you can't really tell that it's low light because it's I try to diffuse as much of the light as possible. So right now you can't really tell that there's much low light here. Because I'm using a different camera, and I'm using a faster lens. This is it's a 1.4 aperture, and it lets in a lot of the light. As you can see, well, I'm going to be showing the footage with my M50. So once you guys see what it is like that now, that's how it's going to be. Hopefully I run the same test, you know, within the same time limit, so the sun doesn't set quickly. But spec wise, we can go on to specs of the M50. Just on exposure and ISO settings, you know, maximum ISO for the M50 native is about 25,600, and minimum ISO native is 100. Auto ISO ranges from 100 to 6400, 100 to 25,600, like I had mentioned, in manual, in 1/3 of or 1 full stops. We're actually going to test it on 24 frames per second, and then we'll test it on 60 frames per second, and then we'll see how it performs on each one from there. You know, because it is 24 frames per second, that's going to be a slower shutter speed that that we're going to be shooting at 1/50th of a second. So that should help out with lower light. But once we bump it up to 60 frames a second, and then we shoot at a 1/20th or at a 1/20th of a second, then that's gonna, you know, increase the shutter speed. So the ISO is gonna have to go up, and that's gonna affect your you know, your noise in the video if you're following the 180 rule for filmmaking. But we're gonna test it out, and then we will go from there. We'll see how it comes up. So let's do 24 frames per second first, and we'll test it out. Alright guys, so as you guys can see, the ISO 100 here is no good. It's dark enough to where, actually, yeah, ISO 100 here is no good. You cannot see any of the figures here. Let me turn on my flashlight so you guys can see what it's supposed to look like. Okay, so I have figures here. I have Iron Man and I have Woody from Toy Story, and Iron Man from the Marvel comic books. But anyways, ISO 100 is no good. At this point, there's not enough light. I am shooting at the fastest aperture that my stock lens can. The kit lens is a 3.5 at 15 millimeters. My settings are 1/50th of a second shutter speed, and I'm shooting at 24 frames per second. Okay, as you guys can see, at at ISO 200, this is what the picture looks like. It is looking a little bit clearer. You can see a little bit more color come through, but on the tiny camera screen, I cannot see the noise, how much noise it's producing. So I'm gonna have to wait till I get it on my computer. So that's ISO 200. This is ISO 400. As you guys can see, autofocus is suffering. It's like struggling to get on there. But you can kind of make out the figures now. And we have Woody. Yeah, autofocus is like, we have Woody and we have Iron Man. Okay, ISO 800. We can kind of get a way better picture now. Probably usable, and face tracking is working currently at the moment. So does Iron Man's face, does his face not track? Nope, Iron Man doesn't. Only Woody. Wait. There we go. ISO 800. ISO 1000. If you guys can see, it's starting to look a lot better. Focusing is still struggling. It might be the lens though. Okay. ISO 1600. So ISO 1600 looks a whole lot better, and it doesn't look too bad on the screen. I would have to wait and see what it looks like on my computer. ISO 2500. This actually looks a whole lot better, and it looks like there's a lot more light than there actually is out here in my dining room. So ISO 3200 looks a whole lot better. Face tracking is catching on right away. Iron Man doesn't register as a face, but here we go, focusing. There we go. And Woody. ISO 4000, all the same settings, 1/50 of a second, 3.5 f-stop, and ISO 4000. Still shooting at 24 frames per second. We have Woody, and we have Iron Man. Alright, this is ISO 5000. Autofocus is ISO 6400. As you guys can see, it looks pretty good. The light looks pretty good. I'm not seeing... Oh, I can see noise on my tiny screen, so I'm pretty sure if I throw it on my computer, it's going to be, you know, a whole lot noisier once I get it up on a big screen. So, you guys can see that. And this is ISO 12,800. 12,800. The whole scene is overexposed, so it looks like it's crazy daylight in here, which is not. As you guys saw the ISO 100 shot, it's pretty dark in here. Very low light. I'm actually surprised at how well this kit lens is performing, but it's just struggling to get that autofocus though. Here we go. This is ISO 12,800. As you guys could tell from the first ISO test on the first 24 frames test, that you cannot see anything at all. This is with my phone light, my flashlight. Looks pretty clean with the light, but without the light, you can't see anything at all. If you're following the 180 rule, our shutter speed is at 1/100th instead of 1/50th, so that's cutting it in half. So it's going to be a lot less light coming in through the sensor than it was at 24 frames per second. This is 200, ISO 200, ISO 400. I think on 24 frames per second, 1/50th of a second before, you were able to see the actual figures, but you still can't see them here. ISO 800. Once again, ISO 800. It's still very dark. And like I said, compared to the 24 frames per second, 1/150th of a second, it's going to be a lot less light. I mean, you can always adjust your shutter speed. You can always get a faster lens. But with this kit lens, I want to show you guys what it's like to shoot with an M50 right out of the box. ISO 1000. You can kind of start making out the figures now, their colors, their patterns, their detail a little bit better, at least from what I'm seeing on the screen on my M50. ISO 1600. We're about 3 stops, still 3 stops too dark. ISO 3200, and we're still about maybe a stop and a half too dark. ISO 5000. We're actually exactly at 6400 ISO. And if I get close enough to my little screen here, I can see noise. I'm not sure how far back the noise was shown on the screen, but from what I can tell on this little screen, I can start to see noise now. ISO 10,000. And last but not least, ISO 12,800. This is what it looks like. I can see noise all over the screen now. It's not too dark outside. I mean, It's only about, let's see, what time is it? It's 7 o'clock p.m. Sunset's not for another hour or so. So this should still be, well, I am indoors, so I can see noise all over the screen. Alright guys, so this is the side-by-side comparison of 60 FPS at 120 and 24 FPS at 150th. ISO maxed out at 12,800. So you guys can see how it handles at different frame rates. And hopefully you guys were able to see what kind of ISO performance the M50 can get in a lower indoor, low light type of situation. It's still about 7 p.m. It's about 7:10 p.m. Sunset hasn't even started yet, so you know, we're indoors and kind of have light diffused all around. Try to as best as possible, even though these are not like blackout curtains or anything like that. As you can see with the overexposure, there's still a ton of light coming in, so you know, there should be you know, no issue getting any detail or getting video at lower or mid-range ISO. But I'm currently shooting at 12,800 ISO. I'm not sure if you guys can see any noise. I don't think so. Well, I don't know, because there's a bunch of light coming in from the side. But I am shooting at 3.5, 1/100th of a second. And I mean, there's a big difference whether you're shooting at 1/100th of a second or 1/50th of a second, just because you slow down the shutter. You're letting more light in, which would be helpful. A quick tip for shooting in low light: even if you do all your vlogs at 60 FPS on the M50, if you're shooting in low light and there's no way around it, there's you know, you can't light up the scene, you can't find a better spot to vlog or to shoot video, what I would suggest is lowering that shutter speed to 1/50th of a second, putting your camera settings down to 50 FPS instead of shooting at 60 FPS. I'm sorry, not 50 FPS. Shooting at 24 frames per second, 1/150th of a second. That will slow down your shutter speed, which will let more light into your sensor, and you can have a lower ISO, so you don't get all this grainy effect on your video, which is called noise. So like I said, slowing down the shutter speed will let more light in, which will let less noise into your image, into your footage. So that's a quick tip of what you can do. Give this video a like if you liked it. Give it a thumbs down or a dislike if you didn't like it. And then you know, hit that notification button and subscribe. That way you guys can be up to date on all my future videos. And hope to see you guys next time.